The phone's lock chime is so soft that at first I'm not sure if I imagined it. My breathing sounds heavier than usual, like I'm suddenly aware of my own lungs filling and emptying, as though I've never heard them so clearly before. My thumb hovers over the screen. I press the side button. The display goes dark. That tiny noise, click, a metallic twinkle, echoes in my mind. It's funny how the smallest sounds become colossal when your entire life is balancing on a razor's edge. I set the phone aside on the kitchen counter. It's midday, but the clouds outside have gathered, casting the house in a gray hush. On the far wall, one of my old clocks ticks resolutely, as if it's oblivious to the tension in the air. Time, I think, is the real enemy. Or maybe I've just gotten old enough to notice it creeping in. Every second that clock measures out feels like a slow drip of something I can't hold on to. I stand there a moment, looking around. The cabinets, scuffed near the handles. The half-empty bread loaf that Mark ate from the last time he stopped by. My bread, my table, my home. And somewhere upstairs, Evie, my wife, is probably moving from one room to another, looking at her reflection in mirrors, rehearsing words she might say to me. I notice my pulse in my throat. I swallow, but it doesn't go away. We were supposed to have an uneventful afternoon, maybe watch some old Western on TV. Instead, everything's changed. It started with a simple mistake. A courier showing up at my door with a box meant for someone else. The name on it read, Mark Sakuraba. My first reaction. The courier got it wrong. But the address was ours. My address. Our last name nowhere on the label. Just Sakuraba. My mind flicked to Mark's casual grin, his jokes about my worn-out jeans, how he teased me for wearing a pair of boots that had seen better days. I open that box before I realize it's not mine. A reflex. Inside, there's a Japanese blade, slender, wickedly sharp, apparently a gift for one of Mark's students. Later, I find the packing slip. It's from a specialty shop in Tokyo. A note says, "Your student will love it," engraved with her name, as requested. And that name, etched in curly script, is Evie's. Not just Evelyn. No, it's her signature nickname, Evie. It's the first real crack in my sense of stability. A confusion sets in, like I'm reading lines from a script that no one told me I was part of. Sure, I knew Mark gave her the occasional one-on-one lesson. She claimed it was just for fitness, or just for stress relief. He ran some martial arts school in town. I never gave it much thought. He was in decent shape, younger than me, easy smile, and always with that confident posture you see in guys who believe they can take down anyone if it came to it. He'd come over sometimes, hang out after she'd mentioned how nice he was. We'd even shared a couple of meals. And now, I see he's sending her a gift, a personalized Japanese blade. Why would he do that unless... I remember how, that same evening, Evie tried to play it down. "It's just a present for the advanced students," she insisted. He probably just used my name so I'd remember to pass it along to someone. You know how Mark is, always mixing stuff up. She laughed, but the laugh was off-key, forced. And I just stood there, holding that polished wooden sheath, feeling like I might crush it in my grip if I squeezed any tighter. Time. Time is everything. I realize how I used to see it as a friend. Someone who gave me space to fix what needed fixing, to care for the old clocks I started collecting. Now it feels like it's rushing me, cornering me with the truth. That same week, I discovered her phone left unlocked on the coffee table. There were messages, photos, half-hidden references to that night. Her face pressed to his chest in a mirror selfie, his hand on her waist. My ears rang. I set her phone down quietly, like a bomb I was afraid would go off. But it might as well have detonated in my gut. I didn't say a word. My father always told me, if you don't have the right words, keep your mouth shut. So I swallowed my shock and went to the garage to bury myself in the shape and movement of old broken clocks. It's what I do. Rescue them from the trash, from yard sales, from estate auctions. I bring them home. I open their worn wooden cases, peer at their battered gears, the bent escapements. I try to coax them back to life. Maybe that's what I did with my marriage, too, for years. Picking up bits and pieces, hoping I could realign them, patch them together so everything would start ticking again. But I can't fix what doesn't want to be fixed. Still, I tried. I come back to the present moment. My phone sits there, locked. Her phone is upstairs with her, presumably. The house is so quiet I can hear the fridge hum. Then the kettle on the stove begins to whistle. A shrill, rattling sound that tears through the silence. I step over and kill the flame. Rick. Evie's voice glides down the stairs. A slight tremor. The floor creaks as she descends. I don't move from the kitchen. She appears around the corner, wearing yoga pants and a loose top. There's a smear of mascara under her left eye, like she's rubbed it recently. She always has a certain grace to her stance. Years of yoga. The posture of someone who wants to appear calm even when the world's caving in. She licks her lips, tries a smile. Tea. I can make you a cup, if you want. I nod, not trusting my voice. My breathing rattles in my chest. I watch her. She sets out a mug, lifts a tea bag. Her fingers tremble. She looks up. Our eyes meet. I see regret, guilt, maybe frustration there. She exhales softly. Rick, I. Her words catch. She tries again. Can we talk? About everything. My chest feels tight. This is the moment I've been putting off. The tension has hovered in our house for days, thick and suffocating, ever since that package fiasco. That was a few weeks ago, and in that short window, I've asked myself 1,000 times what I'm going to do. Scream. Demand an explanation. Beg her to come clean. She's searching my face for any sign of emotion, but all I can think about is that phone lock sound from a moment ago. Something final about it. Time keeps marching, pushing me forward whether I want it or not. She moves toward me carefully, as though I might bolt if she comes on too strong. Her voice is husky, low. I never wanted to hurt you, I swear. I still can't speak, so I reach out, open the cabinet above the stove, and grab a second mug. I place it next to hers, a gesture that might look like acceptance. I guess I'm inviting her to continue, to save her peace. She puts the tea bags in, pours water from the kettle, the steam rising between us. The aroma of peppermint climbs into the air. I hear the clock ticking away in the background, a slow, methodical beat. Everything else stays silent for a few seconds. Finally, she sets my tea on the counter. Her hands are shaking so hard the cup rattles on its saucer. It wasn't. I didn't plan for this, she says. Her eyes flick to mine, then away. She talks like she's trying to wrap me into her story, to make me understand. I felt lonely. You were always, I don't know, distant. You got so wrapped up in your clocks, your work, everything. I felt like I was drifting. I needed to feel alive. Mark made me feel that way. At first it was just martial arts lessons, but then, her voice cracks. It just happened. I picture them in that sweaty practice room, his hands guiding her arms in some hold, their breath mingling, adrenaline pumping. I can almost see her leaning against him. That electric moment. I should be furious. I should be telling her to get the hell out. But all I manage is to stare, my eyes heavy with a pain I can't verbalize. My head throbs. The inside of my skull feels like a pressure cooker. She tries again to get me to speak. Rick, please, just say something. Yell at me if you have to. I deserve it. I let out a slow breath. I'm not sure what I'd say. I manage. My voice cracks, raspy. I don't know who I am anymore. And that's the crux of it, isn't it? For all these years, I've defined myself as a husband, a man who quietly supports his wife, works a decent job, tinkers with broken stuff in his spare time. That was me. And now I've discovered this entire reality is a lie. I can't blame time alone for that. Maybe the illusions rotted away while I wasn't paying attention. She steps closer. Her eyes glisten. "I still love you," she whispers. "It's just, I got lost." We both did. The kettle is still hot on the stove. I can smell something metallic. I don't move. The tension in my shoulders mounts until it's almost unbearable. "Why, Mark?" I say finally. "You brought him into our home." She stares at the floor. "I don't know," she says lamely. I hear a beep from somewhere. Maybe it's her phone. She stiffens. The moment breaks. Time again, reasserting itself. I set my mug down, my hand shaking so badly a bit of tea spills over my thumb. The burn sharpens my thoughts. "We had him here, Evie," I say, voice rising. "At our table. You served him bread. You poured him coffee. And then later, after I went to bed, or while I was out. How long has this been going on?" She looks panicked, blinking hard. 4 months, she breathes. Then she tries to correct. "Well, it wasn't serious for that whole time. It just turned physical. And then." I flinch like she physically struck me. "I get it," I say quickly, not wanting details. The mental images swirl behind my eyes, turning my stomach. My voice comes out in a near growl. "Enough." We both go silent again. Then she's crying. She tries to stifle the sobs, but they escape in ragged gasps. I remember the day we exchanged rings. Bright sunlight, her hair pinned back with little white flowers, her smile wide and hopeful. My ring is still on my finger, but it's grown heavy, suffocating. I reach up, tug at it. That circle of gold scrapes over my knuckle. I set it on the counter next to the phone. She notices. Her tears come faster, but I make no move to comfort her. "I don't deserve you," she chokes out. God, I'm so sorry." I stare at the ring. It sits there, silent, mocking. "I'm going upstairs," I mutter. "Need to think." She half lifts a hand. "Rick." I brush past her. I climb the stairs, each step feeling like it weighs a ton. The bedroom greets me with that stale hush of air. Our bed is unmade. The sheets are wrinkled, a faint imprint of her form still visible on one side. The closet door is slightly ajar. A mirror on that door catches my reflection as I enter. A man with hunched shoulders, eyes that look older than 45. The sight of myself is jarring. Time is a strange thing. In that mirror, it's like I see myself from outside my life. This is what I've become. A quiet, stoic figure who can't even find the words to express his pain. I close my eyes and inhale, focusing on the sound of my breathing again. But it's no comfort. I glance at the bedside table. A stack of old photos sits there, pictures of us at some beach in Florida. A snapshot of her hugging me at a county fair. I pick up one. She's wearing a big straw hat, laughing. My arms circle her waist from behind. She looks genuinely happy. The memory stings. That was 8 years ago. Not that long if you think about it. But time keeps moving forward. We can't freeze those moments. Eventually, I lie down on the bed, staring at the ceiling fan rotating. She doesn't follow. She must still be downstairs, crying or pacing. Part of me wants to vanish into the air, let the swirling fan carry me away. I feel a strange hollowness, like everything that mattered drained out of me. Hours pass, or maybe minutes. I can't tell. The house is silent. Finally, I hear the front door. A click, a hush. Then it shuts. I realize she's left. Where did she go? Maybe to see him, to talk things over. Maybe she needs space. I get up, my throat parched. The ring is still in the kitchen where I left it. For a moment, I consider putting it back on, maybe out of habit, maybe out of fear of what it means to let it go. I decide to leave it. Then, numbness taking over, I head to the garage. My safe haven is a row of shelves stacked with battered clocks, all in various states of disrepair. Some have missing gears, others broken glass, many simply refusing to tick. I brushed dust off the nearest one. A West clock's from the 60s, face cracked. I can't remember where I picked it up. Maybe a flea market. Gently, I pry open its backside, letting the faint odor of old metal and rust fill my nose. I hold its gears in my hand, feeling their tiny teeth. With each spin, I sense how time is supposed to flow. A gear out of place, and everything stops. That's how it is with us, I think. One gear turned the wrong way, everything jammed. I get lost in that for a while. It's better than drowning in images of Evie and Mark. I rewrite the puzzle of the clock's insides, checking each gear for alignment. Eventually, I realize it's nearing dusk. The light through the small garage window has turned orange. My stomach growls, but I have no appetite. I wipe my hands on a rag, scanning the shelves. Another broken clock stands out. The brass face tarnished green, the glass missing entirely. I think about how I collected these lost causes. I told myself it was about preserving history, giving a second life to objects that never asked to be thrown away. But maybe it was a reflection of me, always trying to fix what's broken instead of discarding it. I recall the day the courier messed up the delivery. That was the final push that revealed it all, though I suspect the cracks had been forming long before that. The package had come on a Thursday morning. I remember the confusion on the courier's face as he double-checked his paperwork. Then that box, the carved handle of the blade inside. When Evie arrived home that evening and saw it on the table, she froze. The blood drained from her face so fast I thought she'd faint. She stammered something about how it must be a gift for the dojo, how Mark must have used our address by mistake. The stench of lies was thicker than glue. I leave the garage, eventually heading back into the house. She's still gone. I check my phone. No messages, no missed calls. I slump onto the couch. Outside, the wind picks up. The porch swing scrapes across the decking, back and forth, a lonely sound. My gaze falls on the ring again, that glint of gold. It's weird to see it out in the open, not warming my finger. The next few days pass in a haze. She returns that night, tiptoes into the bedroom, tries to talk once or twice, but I'm mostly silent. The shame in her eyes grows darker. She begs me to at least scream at her, but I can't. I feel a quiet rage, yes, but it's overshadowed by something else, a gnawing sense of guilt that maybe I drove her to this by not being the man she needed. That's the lie I let seep into me, that I wasn't enough. I don't sleep well. My dreams are filled with the ticking of giant clocks, gears turning in an endless machine. Sometimes I see Mark's face appear in the center of a clock, mocking me. Other times I see her face, tearful, drifting away from me. I wake up sweaty, the sheets twisted around my legs. One afternoon, I get a text from a buddy who's connected in the local martial arts scene. He says, "Hey, isn't your wife training with Mark Sakuraba? Heard talk he's been real close with a few female students. Maybe keep an eye on that." He's late, of course. The damage is done. I toss my phone onto the couch, the frustration inside me twisting my stomach. Then I remember something. The DNA test. I ordered it a while back, on a whim, but it arrived last week, ironically around the same time the Sakuraba box came. Originally, I got it because I was curious about my lineage, or maybe I was bored. But I find myself spitting into the little plastic tube, sealing it, preparing it for the mail. The real reason. I want to identify who I am now. Not about fatherhood or paternity. It's about me. Where do I belong? Am I just this leftover shell of a husband? The next time Evie tries to speak with me, I'm in the living room, rearranging pictures on the mantel. Photos of our wedding, trips, a couple of birthday parties. She stands behind me, fiddling with her hands. The tension is so thick you could slice it with that Japanese knife. "Rick," she says quietly, can we try counseling or something?" She's wearing one of her old t-shirts, hair in a messy bun. Her eyes look puffy, as if she's been crying all morning. I set the photo of us at the county fair back on the shelf. It's right next to an antique clock I recently salvaged. I half turn to her. You want to fix this? I say. After everything. She nods, tears welling up again. I do. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant to tear us apart. I let out a slow breath, my face tightening. If you wanted that, why didn't you just talk to me before it got physical? She stammers. Mark. He. And I was so. I hold up a hand. Enough. Just. My voice trails off as I realize I don't want to hear excuses. I can barely stand the swirl of conflicting emotions in my own head. Anger, longing, pity. I need time. That's all I can say. She nods, tears slipping down her cheeks. Okay, she whispers. Time, I think bitterly. Time's the last thing I want more of. But ironically, it's the only currency we have. Eventually, a day comes when I know I can't keep quiet. The anger is building like a storm cloud. My buddy tips me off that Mark is giving a demonstration at his dojo. Some meet and greet. He invites me to come. I have no real business being there except maybe seeing this man face to face. I drive over in the late afternoon. The sky is dull, the sun hidden behind thick clouds. The building is unimpressive, a strip mall dojo with tinted windows. I step inside. The air smells of disinfectant and sweat. A few novices in white kits are chatting in the corner. Then I spot Mark. He's wearing a black guy top and pants, moving with quiet confidence as he demonstrates a grab on a student. He sees me and raises his eyebrows, recognition flickering. A slow, measured smile crosses his lips. Hey man, he says, stepping away from the mat. Didn't expect to see you here. His voice is calm, but I detect a slight caution in his stance, like he knows something's off. I remain silent, just staring. For a second, I think about how he came to my house, drank my beer, ate my bread. He teased me about my old jeans, as if I were some relic. My knuckles tighten. I see the gear of my life spinning faster, on the brink of skipping a tooth. Another second, and everything might jam. You can watch if you want. Mark continues. We're about to do a sparring exercise. I walk closer. My gaze flicks around, noticing the neatly stacked mats, the wooden practice weapons mounted on racks. My heart is pounding so loudly it's almost painful. I swallow the dryness in my throat. I just came to see for myself, I say, struggling to keep my voice steady. He inclines his head. See what? I stare at him for what feels like a full minute. Then I lean in, speak low enough that the onlookers won't hear. How a man who claims to respect discipline can sleep with another man's wife. His face twitches. The veneer of calm cracks slightly, though he tries to mask it. Rick, let's talk outside, he mutters. No need to make a scene here. I almost laugh, but it's a hollow sound that never fully leaves my chest. A scene. I say, you're worried about your precious dodo's reputation. He glances at a couple of students who look our way. With a tight motion, he signals them to carry on. Then he leads me through a side door into a cramped office. The walls are lined with photos of him at competitions, holding trophies, wearing belts of various colors. Once inside, he closes the door. The air seems thicker, closer. My fists still clench and unclench. Look, he starts. I'm sorry. I truly am. Evie and I. Stop. I hiss. Don't say her name. You don't get to say her name like it's nothing. You, bastard. Time warps. In that small space, everything blurs. I half expect him to come at me with a martial arts move. Instead, he lifts his hands, palms up in surrender, as though he's diffusing a violent student. She told me you two were barely speaking, he says quietly. That she was lonely, that she felt neglected. Pain spears through me. Even if there's truth in that, it's not an excuse. You use that as justification. I growl, to slip into our bed, into her arms. He grimaces. It wasn't a plan. I'm sorry. I really am. This wasn't about you, Rick. It was about her and me, and I slam my fist into the side of a metal filing cabinet. The clang resonates in the small office. My knuckles burn. He tenses, but doesn't move forward. You think it wasn't about me? I say, my voice quivering with rage. I gave you a seat at my table. Listen to your stories. Let you poke fun at my life. Meanwhile, you were plotting behind my back. He shakes his head. It just happened. We got close. She was vulnerable. She needed someone to talk to. I want to tear him apart, physically or verbally. But there's a flicker of restraint that surfaces. Instead, I say, we'll settle this properly. You stay the hell away from my house, from my wife. He exhales. So what? You plan on staying with her? I pause. My mind reels. The question hangs in the air. That's none of your business. The beat passes. Then he nods. But there's this infuriating calm in his eyes, as though he's already made peace with everything. I understand. Listen, Rick, if there's anything. I bark a bitter laugh. Anything you can do. The sarcasm in my voice drips. There's nothing you can do except vanish from our lives. Without waiting for a response, I shove past him and leave the office, ignoring the startled looks from a couple of students. My pulse still hammers when I get in my truck. I punch the steering wheel, letting out a guttural sound that's somewhere between a roar and a sob. I drive home, headlights cutting through the darkening sky. My head is full of chaotic noise. The visit to Mark's dojo was impulsive, but it gave me some sense of confrontation, of letting him see my anger. But did it solve anything? I still have the same problem. My marriage is broken, my sense of identity is in ruins, and the DNA test is probably en route to some lab, waiting to tell me where I come from. That might be the only truth I can rely on at this point. When I get home, Evie is in the kitchen, rummaging through drawers. The ring I took off is still on the sink, exactly where I left it a few days ago. She shoots me a frightened look when I enter, noticing the wildness in my eyes, the tension in my jaw. Where were you? She asks softly. Confronting your lover, I say bluntly. Her face pales. She grips the edge of the counter as though she might collapse. I step closer, realizing tears are already pooling in her eyes. I can't do this, I rasp. Every day I wake up feeling like I can't recognize the man in the mirror. Do you know how that feels? She sniffles. I hate myself, Rick, and you deserve better. I let out a shaky breath. What do you propose we do? Divorce? Separation? Pretend it never happened. Her expression crumples. She crosses the space between us, tries to place her hands on my chest. I made a mistake, she pleads, voice strangled. A huge mistake. I was lost. I was stupid. I stand rigid. The warmth of her palms seeps through my shirt. My anger and sadness coil like serpents inside me, each trying to rise to the surface. Then, for one maddening moment, I want to pull her close, bury my face in her hair, breathe in her scent. The next moment, I want to push her away, lash out. My teeth clench so hard my jaw aches. Don't, I say, and step back. The next morning, I decide to take a day off work, check on a lead for some old clocks at an estate sale an hour away. I leave without telling Evie. She texts me a few times. Where are you? Are you okay? But I ignore them. At the estate sale, I find a battered grandfather clock missing its pendulum. The wood is chipped, but I can see the craftsmanship beneath the wear. Perfect. I buy it for next to nothing and haul it into my truck. On the drive back, I replay everything in my head. The discovery of that box, the messages on her phone, the confrontation with Mark, the tears in her eyes. My rage simmers just below the surface, occasionally spiking into my chest so hard I gasp. I keep seeing them together, pressed close, sweaty from a workout, her whispering into his ear. It's too vivid. At home, I wrestle the grandfather clock into the garage. The thing's enormous, carved with ornate designs. The face is tarnished. I run my hand over the wood, my fingers catching on a splinter. A bead of blood appears on my thumb. I suck it away, wincing. Another broken thing that needs fixing. Another reflection of me. Night falls. Evie eventually finds me in the garage, crouched by the clock with a toolkit. She hesitates in the doorway. I feel her presence before I see her. "Rick," she says gently. "Come inside. It's late." I don't glance up. "I like it here," I say, fiddling with a rusted gear. "Please," she continues, her voice shaky. "We need to talk. Ignoring this won't help." A weary laugh escapes me. Ignoring this. I've been thinking about nothing else. "Tell me, how exactly do you see this ending?" She steps over a toolbox and gingerly moves beside me. "I want to fight for us," she says. "I know I messed up, but if there's any chance." "Is that what you said to Mark?" The words fly out, venomous. She flinches like I struck her. Her eyes fill with tears. "No," she says softly. "It wasn't. Rick, this isn't some fling I want to continue behind your back. I ended it. I swear." I set the gear down. My entire body trembles with suppressed emotion. Time is a curse, I think. It never stops, no matter how much I might need a break. "And do you love him?" I ask, hating how weak my voice sounds. She blinks fast, tears dripping onto the cement floor. "I don't know," she admits. "I cared about him, but I don't want that life. I want you." Silence wraps around us, broken only by the faint hum of the overhead fluorescent. "I need to see how I feel," I finally say. "Because right now, I'm not sure I can forgive you." She bows her head. I understand. Then she leaves, shoulders sagging. In the following days, we barely speak. She tries once or twice to coax me into going out, maybe to dinner or coffee, presumably to talk. But I decline. The ring remains on the sink. She doesn't touch it. I catch her sometimes looking at it with that same expression of guilt and longing. Meanwhile, a letter arrives from the DNA lab. "Your results are in," it says, instructing me to access their website with a code. I punch in the code on my phone. The results show a breakdown of my ancestry, some random percentages of English, Irish, Scandinavian, a fraction of Native American. Nothing shocking. But as I stare at the screen, I realize it's not going to answer the question that's been haunting me. Who am I now? Then one night, I dream of my ring, spinning on a tabletop, ticking like a clock. Evie's face hovers behind it, out of reach. I wake up drenched in sweat. The need to do something, to shift the inertia, grits me. I rummage through old journals, notes, photos. I find the memory of the man I used to be. Honest, caring, maybe a bit too quiet, but devoted. I think about betrayal, about revenge. Because isn't that what every scorned husband fantasizes about at some level? Mark's face drifts into my mind. The anger surges. I know where Mark's dojo is. I know the hours. He might be alone there after classes, counting money or cleaning up. The thought of confronting him physically crosses my mind. But I also know he's a trained fighter, and I'm not. It would be suicide. More than that, it wouldn't undo what happened. That night, though, I toss and turn, imagining storming in, turning over his gear racks, humiliating him in front of his students, letting them see what kind of man he is. But that, too, feels hollow. My revenge, if there is one, needs to be something else, something that sets me free. The next morning, the sky is a slate gray, and the forecast threatens rain. I stand in the bathroom, staring at my reflection. The lines around my eyes, the stubble on my cheeks. I glance down at the sink. The ring is still there. I pick it up, feel its weight, that cool circle of gold. For a moment, I imagine sliding it onto my finger again, Instead, I slip it into my pocket. At the breakfast table, Evie sits with her hands wrapped around a mug of coffee, eyes downcast. She must sense my presence because she looks up with a startled jerk. We haven't made eye contact in days. "Rick?" she asks tentatively, like the word might break me. I sit across from her, place my phone on the table. She reaches to turn it toward her, but I gently block her hand, wanting my own space. "I'm done living in limbo," I say softly. My voice catches. "I've decided." My breath hitches. "I want to separate." Her face shatters. "No. Please. Rick, can we at least tree?" "I can't," I say, heartbreak lacing every syllable. "I can't look at you without seeing him. I need time away from you, from this house, from everything. Maybe we can find a path forward. Maybe not. But right now, I'm suffocating." She starts crying, shoulders shaking. A pit opens in my chest, but I don't move to comfort her. This is the price of her affair, but it's also the price of my silence over the years, my failure to share how I felt drifting. Maybe if I had voiced my concerns earlier, we wouldn't be in this mess. That guilt stabs at me again. She tries to form words through her sobs, but I can't listen. I stand up, head to the garage. I gather a few essential tools, throw them in the trunk of my car alongside a small suitcase I packed the night before. I plan to stay in a cheap motel for a while. As I'm about to leave, I notice my row of clocks. I feel a pang. I don't want to abandon them. They're a part of me. But maybe it's better this way, like leaving the old pieces behind until I figure out if they're worth fixing. I drive off, rain slanting across the windshield, tears burning behind my eyes. For once, the radio stays off. My breathing is all I hear, ragged and uneven. I check into a rundown motel off the highway. The room smells of stale cigarettes and cleaning chemicals. The bedspread is stiff, floral printed. I set my things down, look in the mirror by the closet, and see the same hollow expression. A few days pass. I drown in the silence of that motel room, occasionally stepping out to eat or walk around the block. My phone sits mostly idle on the nightstand. Evie sends me texts. "I love you. Please call me. I can't sleep. I'm so sorry." Each one is a blade twisting deeper. I respond only once. I need space. She respects that, more or less. But one evening, my phone pings with a number I don't recognize. I pick up. It's Mark. His voice is taut. "Rick, hey. I need to talk to you." I nearly hang up. What could you possibly have to say? He exhales. "Look, man, I know you're done hearing me apologize, but things are happening." He seems at a loss for words. "Evie, she canceled her membership at my dojo, obviously. But there's stuff about the job, about your marriage. I just want to clear the air. I don't want this situation to follow me forever." I close my eyes. "So it's about him and his reputation. You want me to sign some statements saying you're a great guy?" I mock. "No, that's not it," he says softly. "Look, I have a belt promotion test next weekend. My sensei's visiting from Japan, and he expects the highest moral standards. If this scandal leaks out, it'll ruin everything. He might revoke my license. I'm asking for your discretion." A cold, bitter laugh escapes me. "You cheat with my wife, and now you want me to keep your secret so your fancy career won't suffer. That's rich." He hesitates. I can almost hear him swallowing. "Rick, if you do this, if you let it go, I'll do whatever you want. I'll never speak to her again. I'll stay out of your life, out of hers." I realize something. This is my leverage, my revenge. He's terrified I'll blow up his reputation, tarnish his standing with his sensei. A savage part of me wants to destroy him, to watch him crumble. But I also think about Evie, about whether she'd be pulled into a public scandal. That might do more harm than good. "Let me think about it," I say, and hang up. I spend the next hours pacing the cramped motel room. A flickering light overhead drives me crazy. The air conditioner rattles. Finally, I step outside, letting the cool night air wash over me. My mind is in turmoil. Time again, ticking away. The question is, do I scorch Mark's life as he scorched mine? Or do I show some measure of mercy and let him sweat out his own guilt? At dawn, I drive back to the house. I find Evie in the living room, half asleep on the couch, a blanket wrapped around her. She sits up abruptly when I walk in. "Rick," she says, voice thick with sleep. I was so worried. "Are you all right?" I ignore her question. Instead, I walk around, scanning the room. My ring is no longer on the sink. "Where's my ring?" I ask, the words coming out clipped. She rubs her eyes. "I put it in the top drawer in the bedroom. I was scared it would fall and roll off somewhere." I grunt. Turning to face her, "I came to grab some more clothes, some tools. I might be gone longer." She stares at me, tears welling. "How long?" "As long as it takes," I say softly. She presses her lips together. "I'll wait for you, Rick. However long it takes." I almost wish she'd lash out, say something cruel, make this easier. But she doesn't. Upstairs, I rummage in the drawer, retrieve the ring. It sits in my palm, cool and heavy. I consider putting it on, then slip it into my pocket again. I grab a duffel bag and stuff clothes into it. On my way out, Evie tries to approach me, but I raise a hand, warding her off. "Don't," I mutter, stepping outside before she can speak. Back in my truck, I toss the duffel on the passenger seat. The sun is climbing, bright and harsh. I notice I've missed a call from Mark. Another voicemail, probably. I don't bother listening. Instead, I drive to a small diner on the outskirts of town, one that used to be our favorite Sunday breakfast spot. I slip into a corner booth and order black coffee. My appetite is non-existent. The waitress sets the mug down, calls me honorable. I force a smile, but it probably looks pained. Sipping the coffee, I swirl in my thoughts. Revenge, mercy, pride, pain. I think about the few times in my life I truly wanted to harm someone. This is the worst by far. But I recall, too, that I was never the kind of man who solved problems with violence or cruelty. Maybe that's part of why I ended up in this situation. Could I break that pattern now? Time. That cursed marching forward of days. If I let Mark's world burn, does it heal mine? Probably not. But it might feel good, at least for a fleeting moment. Then again, what if it just leads to more regret? I pay for my coffee, leave a tip, and return to my truck. In the dusty parking lot, I see my reflection in the rearview mirror. The lines around my mouth look deeper. I take out my phone, scroll to Mark's number, press call. He picks up on the second ring. "Rick," he says, voice careful. "You want me to keep quiet?" I say, gripping the steering wheel. "Fine, but you're leaving Evie alone. Forever." He exhales, relief washing through the line. "Yes, absolutely. I promise you. I won't contact her. I'll cancel her membership. There won't be any reason." "Shut up," I say. "I don't want the details. You do your belt test or promotion or whatever. But if I ever see you near her again, we're done. I'll destroy your precious reputation." He's quiet, then, "Understood," he finally mutters. "Thank you." I hang up, a bitter taste in my mouth. Is that enough? I'm not sure. But at least it's something. He'll be out of her orbit, whether she hates me for that or not. I can't say. A few more weeks drift by. I live in the motel, go to work, come back, occasionally pick up new broken clocks at flea markets. I don't see Evie, though she continues texting me. She says she's found a therapist who specializes in infidelity. She begs me to join. I ignore it at first, then one day I catch myself at the motel, staring at the walls, thinking, maybe I should talk to someone. So I call that therapist. I schedule an appointment. The hour I spend there is excruciating but somehow cathartic. I unload the story. The box, the knife, the phone messages, the ring on the sink. I talk about how I collect clocks, how each broken piece is a reflection of me, and how I used to believe time was my friend. The therapist listens, occasionally taking notes. She gently suggests that I'm punishing myself for something that wasn't entirely my fault, that I might be clinging to illusions of blame. I leave with a swirl of emotions, but also a faint flicker of clarity. Maybe I do have to let go of this crippling guilt, because time won't let me stand still. It'll push me forward regardless. When I finally meet with Evie and the therapist together, it's tense. Evie is trembling, barely able to speak without tears. The therapist guides us, tries to help us see each other's perspectives. I stay mostly silent, only nodding or shaking my head as needed. At the end, the therapist says, "Healing is possible. It's not guaranteed, but it can be pursued if both parties truly want it." I glance at Evie. She looks so worn down, so hollow. I wonder if I look the same. "I don't know," I say. "I don't know if I can do it." She reaches for my hand. "I'll do anything, Rick," she whispers. "Anything." I stare at her slender fingers. A wave of memory floods me. How those same fingers used to stroke my hair, how they once felt warm and comforting, how they likely felt the same on Mark's skin. I swallow hard. I can't speak, but I don't pull away. After the session, we walk to the parking lot. I notice the sun is bright again, the breeze soft, as if mocking the storm inside me. She turns to me, eyes filled with sorrow. "Let me earn your trust back," she says. I lift my gaze to hers, my chest tight. "I can't guarantee I'll ever trust you again, but I need to see if there's anything left to salvage. I owe us at least that much." She nods, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. In the days that follow, we set ground rules. No contact with Mark. Full transparency, therapy sessions. I remain in the motel for a while, but we meet more frequently. I notice how time suddenly feels like an uncertain ally. Is it enough to heal these wounds? I find myself rummaging through the battered grandfather clock in the garage one afternoon, carefully polishing its brass face, resetting its escapement. Eventually, I get the pendulum to swing in a steady rhythm. That slow, confident tick resonates in the dusty air, reminding me that broken things can sometimes be repaired. Not always, but sometimes. Evie texts me that night. "Thank you for giving us this chance." My heart stirs, a confusing mix of pain and flickering hope. But I also feel the weight of everything that happened. The story won't be erased. Mark remains a scar on our history, and I'm not the same man I was. In some ways, I feel older, heavier. Yet maybe that's not entirely bad. People learn from scars, as long as they don't let them define who they are. Weeks stretch into a month. I continue therapy, individually, and with Evie. We talk about the possibility of me moving back in. I hold off, uncertain. Then one evening, after a particularly raw session, I drive to the house unannounced. I stand at the door, that sense of familiarity mixing with dread. I step inside. She's in the living room, lights low. She looks up from a yoga pose, startled. "Rick," she says. I nod. "Just came to check on a few things," I murmur. She straightens, smoothing her hair. "Of course. Anything." I head to the garage, rummage through my boxes of clock parts. She follows, stands in the doorway, watching me. I pretend to be busy with a small wristwatch mechanism, but I sense her gaze. After a while, I turn, and our eyes meet. "You sure you want me back here?" I ask, half challenging, half vulnerable. Her eyes brim with tears, but she nods fiercely. I do. Her simple sincerity hits me. My chest tightens. "I'm not the same," I say. "I doubt I'll ever see you the same way again." She steps forward, close enough that I can smell her faint jasmine perfume. "I accept that," she whispers. "I want to rebuild, even if it's different. Silence stretches. Then I feel an odd sense of calm, or perhaps resignation. I can try, I say, voice trembling. But we need to be honest. No more illusions. If it falls apart, we accept it. If it works, then maybe we find something new. She nods, tears slipping free. We stand there, the overhead bulb humming. The old clocks on the shelves seem to stare at us with blank faces, as though waiting to see if we can fix ourselves as diligently as I fix them. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a slow, painful process, full of nights where I sleep on the couch despite being in the same house, and days where I can't look at her without imagining her in Mark's arms. But gradually, we talk more. Actual conversations, not just tense apologies. She shares her struggles, how she felt unseen, how she spiraled into that affair without intending it. I share my guilt, my fear of not being enough, my anger at her betrayal. Sometimes we argue viciously, voices raised, tears streaming. Sometimes we cling to each other in an odd mix of desperation and tenderness. The months pass. Therapy continues. I keep my promise to Mark. I don't publicly destroy him. In return, he disappears from our life. Evie says he left her alone, unsubscribed from her social media. Everything. I do a check once in a while. His dojo's website is still up. He's still teaching. Fine. Let him live with his conscience. Slowly, I move my belongings back into the house. The ring stays off my finger, though, resting in a small wooden box in my dresser. I'm not ready to wear it again. Maybe never. But there's a day when Evie asks me about it, gently. And I tell her, it's a symbol. I need time to figure out what that symbol means to me now. She just nods, tears in her eyes. But she doesn't press the issue. Little by little, we find new ways to connect. We start cooking together. We go for walks in the neighborhood, just quiet strolls where I sometimes hold her hand, sometimes not. She tries to show interest in my clock repairs. I try to ask about her yoga practice. We're two people, older and more worn, trying to see if love can grow in scorched earth. One evening, as I'm fiddling with that big grandfather clock, she kneels beside me. You ever gonna get this one working? She jokes. I tilt the wooden case slightly, letting her see the gears I've meticulously cleaned. I've been trying for months, but some parts are missing. I had to order them from a collector in Pennsylvania. She leans in, her breath warm against my shoulder. A wave of memory hits me. How we used to share small moments like this, close, unhurried. She touches my arm gently. I know it's silly, she says, but I feel like this clock is us. Still broken in places, missing parts. But maybe it'll ring again. I meet her gaze. There's a softness there, a cautious hope. I close my eyes, exhaling a long breath. Maybe. I murmur. Time. It never stops. But maybe it doesn't have to be the enemy. Maybe it's a chance to keep moving forward, building a new kind of life from the ruins of the old. I'm no saint. I wrestle with bitterness, with images I wish I could erase. I question my choices, wonder if a clean break would have been healthier. But then I see her eyes fill with affection when I walk into a room, or feel her gentle hand on my back when she passes by. And for a moment, it feels like that old warmth creeping in. One night, she joins me in bed for the first time since the affair was revealed. We lie next to each other awkwardly, but eventually we talk. We talk until midnight about everything. Our dreams, regrets, the years we lost to routine and distance, the moments we shared that used to mean so much. We fall asleep in each other's arms, tears drying on our faces. In the morning, I wake before dawn, hearing my own breath again, that deep inhalation, exhalation. Next to me, she's curled up, sleeping. I slip out of bed and go downstairs. The ring is in its box in the dresser, but I don't retrieve it. Instead, I wander the house, noticing details, a flicker in the light fixture in the hallway, the slight squeak of the floor under the window, the faint tick of one of my repaired wall clocks. I step out onto the porch, letting the cool air wash over me. I realize something. This is who I am now. A man who's been broken and is trying to piece himself back together, gear by gear. Not the naive husband who assumed love would always run smoothly. Not the vengeful, scorned man who might have burned everything down. I'm somewhere in between, full of scars and regrets, but also a glimmer of possibility. The sun peeks over the horizon. I close my eyes. I can hear the slow tick of time in my head, an old familiar metronome. Not an adversary this time, but a soft reminder that life moves on. My breathing deepens, and I realize I'm okay with not knowing exactly where this path leads. Maybe it will lead to a stronger love, or maybe it will end in heartbreak. Either way, I'm finally feeling like myself, or at least some new version of myself. And that, I think, is enough to carry me forward into whatever tomorrow brings. I stay there, listening to the quiet hush of the early morning. Then I head back inside, letting the screen door click shut behind me, like the sound of a locked phone. Only now it feels less like an ending and more like the start of a new day.